Well, there's only one really to talk about. Down the end of the 340-kilometre back straight, this was Aleix Espargaro on his way to a historic first win for Aprilia 12 months ago. Coming up next then in MotoGP, Brad Binder's sprint surge is an early contender for Ride of the Season. The KTM star eyes another comeback from 15th. Valentino Rossi's Ducati duo eye more success after Marco Bezzecchi and Luca Marini podium in the sprint. Settling into life at Gresini Ducati superbly, Alex Marquez hones in on a first podium of the season from pole position. And no Italian rider has won the first two races since Valentino Rossi 22 years ago. Can Pecco Bagnaia emulate the master from the front row? Good afternoon then, and welcome back to the Termas Rio Hondo circuit for round 2 of the 2023 MotoGP World Championship. So excited, I was nearly getting ahead of myself there. I was almost in Austin, Texas. That's up next in 2 weeks' time. Right here, right now, we're getting set for the Michelin Grand Prix of Argentina. After a shortened Moto2 race just a few moments ago, the rain has just started to fall again here in northern Argentina. Back at the Termas Rio Hondo circuit for the 8th time. This is the 18th Grand Prix of Argentina. The very first one was back in 1961 in Buenos Aires, the first Grand Prix that ever took place outside of Europe. And it was certainly longer than what we're going to get this afternoon. It took place over 200 kilometres, 25 laps of Termas Rio Hondo coming your way at just after 2 p.m. local time. The umbrellas have started to go back up. Matt Burt, Lewis Sotheby in the commentary box for this second round in South America. Simon Crafar down in pit lane and on the grid. I'm just going to have a quick look at our commentary box position here. Off into the distance, it's just getting a little bit foggy and a bit misty. We're about 6 or 7 kilometres from downtown Termas de Rio Hondo, a famous spa resort in Argentina. Thousands of people come here for the healing powers, I'm told, of the thermal spas, a tourism hotspot. But today, it's all about overtaking hotspots here in Argentina as we get set for round 2. Some breaking news to bring you from yesterday's sprint. Unfortunately, Repsol Honda's Joan Mir, after a first lap crash, absent from this 25 lapper due to a head and neck trauma. We're going to get a look back through the pack here. Mir will be just at the back of your picture here. This was at turn 7 on the first lap of the sprint, and an early exit just as he did 1 week ago in Portimao. We've had 24 sprint laps so far in 2023, and Joan Mir sadly hasn't completed any of them. A big whack. There was initial concerns that he might have actually fractured his ankle. A big fall, big impact for Joan Mir. You can clearly see there, wincing in pain. It's been a bruising start to 2023 for Repsol Honda. All the early promise and optimism after Marc Marquez's pole in Portimao, and then the third place in a stunning first sprint. Well, that's evaporated very, very quickly because Marc Marquez also sidelined from this weekend's action, a broken thumb after his controversial collision in Portimao with Miguel Oliveira. The fans, well, they're not letting this wet weather dampen their spirits, are they? And we're certainly looking forward to this round 2 here in Termas. And Lewis, had it been dry after what we saw on Friday, the dominance from Aprilia, Aleix Espargaro and Maverick Vinales, the top 2 in both sessions, you feel like Aprilia were the clear favourites, but in these wet stroke damp conditions, this becomes much more of an unpredictable lottery.
Absolutely, lottery was the word I was going to use. Aprilia, as you say, so confident after Friday. Aleix Espargaro and Maverick Vinales were first and second at the end of practice 2. Aprilia topped practice 2, qualifying, warm-up and the race here last year. But in the end, yesterday, it was the 2 Aprilias who were getting involved with each other. This was early in the sprint. Maverick Vinales making contact with Marco Bezzecchi. You can see there on the right-hand side as Maverick looked, the winglet started to come loose, and then it would tumble off his factory Aprilia down the back straight soon afterwards. That certainly didn't make that Aprilia go any faster. Maverick Vinales would have had high hopes, as we say, going into the race here today if it were dry. In the wet, all bets are off, but he still goes from the middle of the second row.
We had a wet 10-minute warm-up session this morning, and this man looked in fine form, just as he did in the epic 12-lap sprint yesterday. So close, wasn't he, to denying Brad Binder that sensational win from 15th to first place, second in the sprint, a podium in the main Grand Prix in Portimao last weekend. It's been a stunning start to his second full season in MotoGP for the Muni VR46 Ducati rider. The smart money in rain or dry really on race day today was going on Marco Bezzecchi. Will he be able to handle that little bit of extra pressure? It's been so far so good for the Italian as he gets set to maybe win his first Grand Prix and the first for the Valentino Rossi-backed Ducati project.
Pecco Bagnaia lost his perfect start to the season yesterday. Starts from the front row once again for the main race here this afternoon. There was so much chaos going on ahead of him and behind him in the sprint yesterday. I think Pecco was more than happy just to get it to the flag in 6th position and add 4 World Championship points to the 37 he already notched in Portimao 1 week ago when he was by far and away the class of the field in the fully dry conditions. Maverick Vinales kept him in sight on the Sunday, but of course maximum points achieved for Pecco. This one going to be much more of a struggle. He was curious coming here whether the Ducati would still be as tricky as it has been in previous years. It's not been a kind circuit to Ducati, and so far Pecco hasn't received the answers he was hoping for.
Jack Miller, as always, giving some fans a great experience there. The fans getting some selfies with the new KTM start. 10th place in the sprint yesterday, which means nil points, doesn't it, of course? Only the top 9 men score points in the new race format. And Jack Miller said yesterday he's never ridden so hard for no points. Very little reward coming for the risk yesterday, but he was full of compliments, as you'd expect, for his sparkling teammate Brad Binder, who dazzled us all, didn't he? Fans in downtown Termas Rio Honda last night were just mentioning one name and one man. Brad Binder was on the tip of everybody's tongue after that sensational charge. Some very happy South American KTM fans. Can Binder make it an incredible double here? He does, of course, with the grid format, the same for the sprint and the Grand Prix today. Have to do all the hard work again from 15th place, but it only took him a lap to get into the podium places yesterday, Lewis, and lap 3 to lead.
Yeah, this is how he did it. Watch on the left-hand side of the screen as we look. There he is on the 33. His initial launch wasn't exactly stunning, but watch him on the brakes up in the inside of turn 1. He's up in the inside of Aleix Espargaro and Maverick Vinales on the factory Aprilia. As Martin and Bagnaia are made short work of, so that's already put Brad Binder up into the top 6, and this on lap 3 of the 12-lap sprint, the 14th and final overtake that Brad Binder would make in the Tissot sprint yesterday. He came under increasing pressure in the closing laps. Once Marco Bezzecchi got through on Frankie Morbidelli and Luca Marini into 2nd place, he began to chase down the South African, but the checkered flag came just in time for the South African and for Red Bull KTM Factory Racing. Brad Binder, we should now no longer term him Mr. Sunday, because he saved his best for Saturday yesterday.
Yeah, a super Saturday for Binder. Can it be a super Sunday as well for him? He said he was quite chilled starting the last lap of the sprint with a half a second advantage on his pit board to Marco Bezzecchi, and then he could hear Bez ringing in his ears on that Ducati GP22, and then he just went into blocking mode, a blocking mode that he did to perfection. Marco Bezzecchi said he protected the lead so well. Will it be Binder and Bezzecchi going at it again in the 25 laps coming your way? What lies in store for this man, Fabio Quartararo? Fair to say it's been a problematic, a troubled start to the new season for the Frenchman. Not lacking support in this part of South America. They love El Diablo, but work to do for Fabio Quartararo, having struggled for 1 lap pace in qualifying. He'll start from 10th place. He picked up the last point available in the sprint yesterday, but not happy with in these areas, Lewis. It was stopping that Yamaha that was his issue yesterday. Right here in turn 5, he said he was struggling to stop the bike in turns 1 and 2 as well. So of course they'd have worked overnight to try and find some solutions over what they were hoping would be a dry race. So again, a bit of a journey into the unknown. He's
been put in the shade rarely by his teammate Frankie Morbidelli so far this weekend. Quartararo will perhaps see a wet race as an opportunity, having not had the pace at any stage in the dry on Friday. Did come through qualifying 1 in the wet on Saturday morning, along with this man, Alex Marquez, who succeeds his brother, who of course was on pole position a week ago in Portimao. The first brothers to take back-to-back pole positions in the Premier class. Alex Marquez couldn't quite convert it yesterday, although given all the mayhem going on in the sprint, led of course by this man, Brad Binder, I don't think Alex Marquez can be too disappointed with the fit, but he goes very, very well in the wet conditions. His first ever Premier class podium came in similar conditions to this at Le Mans 2.5 years ago. So Alex Marquez will be confident of converting that pole position.
Well, there he is then, the man of the moment, the talk of the town in Termas Rio Hondo. Number 33, Brad Binder. Incredible performance yesterday. People have said, haven't they, critics of MotoGP over the last couple of years, said it's always hard to overtake. If you don't qualify in the first two rows, you haven't got a prayer of winning races. Well, this man buried that myth, didn't he, yesterday in some fashion. Looks like he's got a little bit of an espresso there, a little bit of a caffeine boost before he comes to the grid for what will be another stern test. This will be a tough 25 laps for these riders, because I'm looking at our commentary box. You might just see there on your screens as our cameras peek into the Red Bull KTM garage. Well, there you go, the raincoats and the umbrellas are back up. The rain is starting to fall a little bit heavier here in Termas Rio Hondo. There was a small dry line, a few dry patches appearing towards the end of the Moto2 race. Don't worry, no spoilers here, we're not going to give anything away, but what we're going to get now, without any question, is a full wet Grand Prix of Argentina, because the rain falling now, there's no way in a million years it's going to dry up before we get underway just after 2 p.m. local time. So that's just in, what, about 35 minutes. It'll be lights out for Jorge Martin and co.
And Martin was second here 1 year ago, was the only rider who could really push Aleix Espargaro anywhere near to the end of that Grand Prix. 8th on the grade for Jorge Martin, sort of in a good qualifier, but of course the wet conditions certainly blunted his progress. Yesterday he started and finished in 8th position, 4 places behind Frankie Morbidelli, who finally, for the first time in what feels like an age, had something to smile about.
Yeah, for the first time in an age, Frankie can relax, because that was a massive jolt to his confidence, which has been dented. It's been battered over the last 18 months or so. Great to see Morbidelli back at the front of races. He led the sprint, albeit briefly, but capitalising on a very strong performance in qualifying when he was on the 4th place on the grid. It was a little bit like, if you wonder what it's like when Pecco Bagnaia, Luca Marini, Marco Bezzecchi and Frankie Morbidelli go at it hammer and tongs on dirt bikes at Valentino Rossi's world-renowned Tavullia Ranch. Well, yesterday's sprint gave you a clear indication of just what it's like, because they were swapping paintwork, bashing elbows in these, weren't they, throughout. Some fans have come over the border then from nearby Brazil to roar on their MotoGP heroes. As we mentioned before, it's fascinating to see how far people trek to this part of northern Argentina. Fair to say, it's not the easiest Grand Prix to get to. Well worth it once you made the effort. But I've seen bikes that have been registered to Paraguay, Chile, Bolivia, Ecuador, Argentina, of course, Brazil. And they do create what is a festival feeling to this Termas Rio Hondo. And I'm delighted to say, Lewis, as well, they've come out in their droves despite the somewhat unpredictable, well, we didn't expect this weather here today.
They certainly produce an atmosphere, don't they? And we're not just talking about the nearby square where they keep us awake through the night with the revving of their engines. There'll be a few motorcycles going in to the repair shop on Monday morning in nearby Termas Rio Hondo. But they do make this event what it is. The only Grand Prix, of course, held in South America. They come from all over the continent, and they're not going to miss their annual opportunity to watch the finest motorcycle racers in the world do their thing. 17 riders will take the start of this MotoGP Grand Prix of Argentina, of course. Notable absentees. I've already told you about Joan Mir's absence from this Grand Prix. His teammate Marc Marquez was involved in that 3-rider collision with Miguel Oliveira and Jorge Martin last weekend. Oliveira not here either, of course, missing for the RNF team. No Pol Espargaro, of course, after the nasty accident he suffered in practice 2 in Portimao last time out. So a number of high-profile casualties, including, of course, Enea Bastianini taken out by Luca Marini in the sprint. We hope to see MotoGP's field back to full strength in Austin in 2 weeks' time, but this wet Argentinian Grand Prix will see 17 take the start.
Reliably informed that Marc Marquez well on course in his recovery to be back in action at his beloved COTA in 2 weeks' time. That will delight the American fans. and certainly delight Repsol Honda who've had a bruising start to the new season. Miguel Oliveira also positive noises coming out of the Portuguese riders camp. Apparently if this Argentinian Grand Prix had been next weekend and not immediately after Portimao, he felt like actually he would have been confident to be back in the saddle on that Crypto Data RNF machine. Some ligament damage in his hip, which sounds pretty uncomfortable, pretty painful, but his rehab going right on course as well. We hope to see Joan Mir back in action as well after his horrible crash at the start of the sprint. And it's today the day, having broken his Premier Class podium duck in the sprint, Luca Marini. Well, he wants it in the main event, doesn't he? In the main Grand Prix coming up this afternoon, the 25-year-old Italian. Got to say, the way that he's rebounded so brilliantly after a tough weekend in Portimao, 4 crashes. He dumped it in the sprint and put poor old Enea Bastianini in hospital as well. An update on Bastianini: he didn't need surgery on that broken right shoulder blade. He's hoping to be back in Kota as well. So Marini recovering superbly from a crash-strewn start to the season. Well, there's a bit of friendly fire early on, wasn't there? We saw contact between Bezzecchi and Marini at turn 5 in the sprint, and there was a nudge there, wasn't there, between the two Aprilias of Aleix Espargaro and Maverick Vinales.
Race winner here last year, wasn't he, Aleix Espargaro? And it has been a hectic start to the sprint era in MotoGP. Both sprints have been absolute box office. The 12 laps in Portimao and indeed the 12 laps yesterday, both going down to the very last lap, with victory still very much under question. Augusto Fernandez, who came through yesterday's sprint in 16th position, scored his first World Championship points last weekend in Portimao, coming to the line in 13th position. The race is declared wet, and there's your confirmation of what that means on your screens. It's called the flag-to-flag rules, which come into effect in MotoGP. If it starts dry, they have to wait for the white flags before they're allowed to come in and swap bikes. They could swap bikes at any moment if the race is declared wet, although looking out of our window, I don't think that's going to happen imminently in this 25-lap Grand Prix.
Yeah, the problem is here, traditionally it's been a slow drying surface. Number 44, maybe a David Munoz fan in the making there. Number 46, divided loyalties there, wasn't there? Yes. For that fan with his very striking green hat on. Maybe he's also a Pol Espargaro fan. We wish Pol recovery as well after his horrible P2 crash in Portimao. Multiple serious injuries, including a broken jaw, severe bruising to his lungs. A lengthy absence coming the way of the Spanish rider, but he's a warrior, he's a fighter, and when he's back, we know that Pol Espargaro is going to be giving it full gas on the Gas Tech 3 machine.
So Raul Fernandez there, the sole RNF Aprilia, of course, due to Miguel Oliveira's injury-enforced absence. Qualifying was really his Achilles heel last weekend in Portimao. Had to come from the very back of the field in the sprint and in the Sunday race. He goes from 13th position on the grid here this afternoon. Yesterday in the sprint for Raul Fernandez, didn't really make any progress, in fact dropped a place, back to 14th at the end of the race. He, much like the factory Aprilia riders, we're just wishing this had been a dry Grand Prix. As it is, they're going to have to do their best in the wet.
There's Francesco Guidotti having a little chat there with Hervé Poncharal, boss of the Gas Tech 3 team. Great day for the Red Bull KTM squad yesterday, wasn't it? A stunning victory for Brad Binder. It will be a completely different ball game, a different challenge for him to repeat that here today. Bagnaia did the double for Ducati 1 week ago in Portimao. Are we going to get another double success from Brad Binder? If he does it today from 15th on the grid, well, more kudos to him. Although, as they do say, the rain is always a great leveller. Do not discount Binder. If he gets a similar start and is as aggressive as he was in the first 2 corners as yesterday in the sprint, well, that spells trouble for the world champion Pecco Bagnaia and the other 16 riders out on the field.
You do wonder whether these kind of conditions might well play into the hands of his teammate Jack Miller. Of course, pole position here in iffy conditions, largely dry, but there were wet patches, and Jack Miller was absolutely incredible. One of the great MotoGP qualifying laps here back in 2018. Miller, though, this time has to go from 16th on the grid. The KTMs collectively 15th, 16th and 17th on the grid. But of course, in previous wet races, we have seen KTM triumph, although perhaps that's more down to the wet weather prowess of Miguel Oliveira than the characteristics of that motorcycle. The pit lane ready to open then as the riders get ready to take to the grid.
Time to crank the volume up then as the pressure and tension mounts and increases here in Argentina. Brilliant new technology, great innovations from Dorna and their technical partners The new microphones bring you this incredible audio. We'll just stay quiet as we follow Pecco Bagnaia around this sighting lap. So the riders then leave pit lane to start the build-up to this 25-lap Michelin Grand Prix of Argentina. Jorge Martin was within a whisker of denying Aleix Espargaro history here last year. Jorge Martin's been an indifferent start, I guess you could say, to 2023. Great start to the season in the sprint in Portimao. A close second to Bagnaia. In fact, he led, didn't he, until 9 corners remaining. When he ran wide at turn 5, Bagnaia came through. Sadly, no slick tyre action this afternoon. It will be a straight toss-up between the soft and medium front Michelin Rain tyre or the soft and medium rear tyre. At least the riders have got some data and information, having had some wet laps in the warm-up session this morning. A warm-up session which was topped by Marco Bezzecchi.
So the Gresini Ducatis make their way around to the grid. Fabio Gianantonio will surely see this as something of an opportunity to finally kickstart his MotoGP season. On the number 49, we ride on board with a fellow Fabio, in the case of Fabio Quartararo, who perhaps will have some wet weather demons to banish here this afternoon. Of course, the last time MotoGP raced in wet conditions, Fabio Quartararo sank without trace in Buriram. His crew chief, Diego Gubellini, took some responsibility for that, saying that tyre pressures were way outside the window that Fabio Quartararo needed for that Grand Prix, but finishing down in 17th in that race. Of course, his other wet weather appearance last year was a second place in Mandalika, so very contrasting fortunes for Fabio Quartararo in the wet. Let's see what he can get up to today.
So there is the declaration, no great surprise. The wet race border is up at the head of the grid. That was a great day yesterday, wasn't it, for Gresini Ducati. Alex Marquez on pole position for the first time in MotoGP, and a strong ride inside the top 5 again in the sprint. Let's get some pre-race thoughts from Gresini Ducati's Michele Massini.
Michele, I wanted to come see you especially about Alex Marquez. I've got to say, I was super impressed with how he managed Q1, Q2 in these similar conditions, and want to know what your thoughts are of him so far this weekend and going into this race.
Yeah, for sure we have a high expectation from the Alex performance today. We know his skill on this condition of the asphalt, so we hope also that coming a bit of more of rain, but also in the other side we see in the warm-up a good feeling also from Dizza in this wet condition, so we will see.
Okay, best of luck today.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Michele. Thanks to Simon Crafar then down on the grid. Alex Marquez then. This is the 6th time in 8 Argentina MotoGP races that we've had a Marquez brother at the head of the grid. The previous 5 of 7 were taken by Marc Marquez, of course, is still convalescing back at home with his damaged right thumb. As he mentioned, this man in many respects in the dry, given his prowess in the sprint yesterday, but certainly after his excellence in this morning's warm-up. In many people's books, the pre-race favourite, Marco Bezzecchi. Does history beckon for him? Can he continue the excellent start for the VL46 camp riders, having seen Pecco Bagnaia double up last weekend for Ducati? Important for this man though, Lewis, I think, to start on the front row. And as he said yesterday, he didn't really have that front-end confidence to push and attack as hard as he wanted to in the sprint, but he's such a smart, wily old character, isn't he, Pecco Bagnaia? Don't take the big risk, pick up the points, because that's going to be significant at the end of a season where there are a mammoth 777 points up for grabs.
It's going to reward consistency this season, and so far this season, Pecco Bagnaia hasn't really put many wheels wrong at any stage. 6th position in the sprint, given the kind of race we saw, can't be really seen as a bad result. Getting some points on the board is no bad thing. Here's how your grid lines up then for this wet weather Argentinian Grand Prix. Alex Marquez on pole position from Marco Bezzecchi and Pecco Bagnaia. Frankie Morbidelli heads row 2 ahead of Maverick Vinales, who was of course so strong in the dry this weekend, and Joan Zarco, who we've seen in the past is no slouch in the wet. Luca Marini 7th ahead of Jorge Martin and last year's winner Aleix Espargaro. Fabio Quartararo, what can he salvage from this weekend? He goes from 10th ahead of Taka Nakagami and Alex Rins, the only two Hondas that will start this Grand Prix. Neither Repsol Honda, of course, out here. Marc Marquez didn't come here, and Joan Mir injured following the sprint. Ralph Fernandez 13th ahead of Fabio Di Gianantonio and yesterday's incredible sprint winner Brad Binder. And the grid completed by the other two KTMs, Jack Miller, teammate to Binder, and Augusto Fernandez, of course, the sole rider for the Gas Factory Tech 3 Racing squad.
When you look at that graphic there and see how far you have to wait to get to this, man, it just adds more weight to what an outstanding job Brad Binder did yesterday. Now then, 1 year ago, right here in Termas Rio Hondo, it was one of the most memorable days in Aprilia racing history, with Aleix Espargaro taking their, as it stands, one and only MotoGP victory. They'll be looking to add to that tally here this afternoon in tricky conditions. In the dry, they look so good. What about their wet race prospects for Aleix Espargaro and Maverick Vinales? Well, let's hear from the boss, Massimo Rivola, with Simon.
Massimo, as Matt just said, you won here a year ago and you came into this weekend in the first dry sessions looking clearly the strongest manufacturer. Riders look both great. Then the weather came and spoiled qualifying. I really would like to know, or at least for Aleix it spoiled qualifying, I really would like to know what you think the possibilities are for your bikes and riders in these conditions.
Well, in a way, you're right. In dry condition, we were quite strong, but we were not good enough to adapt to the condition. I don't know really to what to expect, to be honest. I just hope in a smooth race, and we take whatever it comes. I think that being too aggressive in a race like this is not for us, to be honest. But I see both riders, actually including Raul, getting a good feeling also in wet condition. But something that I would like to prefer to avoid is a mixed condition. So if it's going to rain, let's stay on the rain and not change in the condition, because we are not there in that kind of situation.
Massimo, thanks for your thoughts. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Thanks, Simon. Thanks to Massimo Rivola. Yeah, these rain conditions have thrown the whole grid a bit of a curveball, but you really feel like a big dent in Aprilia's hopes of successfully defending their Grand Prix title here after Aleix Espargaro's brilliance. It was his 200th Premier Class start 12 months ago. Took pole position and then took an emotional victory. Unforgettable celebrations afterwards, and that really was the first signs that we saw Aprilia emerging as title contenders last season, and they stayed in that title hunt until the second to last race of the season in Malaysia, where Aleix Espargaro and Aprilia really suffered for a poor run on the flyaways. Now then, Ducati, the reigning world champions, made a stellar start to the defence of their title, with Pecco Bagnaia doing the double in the sprint and the Grand Prix in Portimao. Marco Bezzecchi looks really, really strong to maybe keep Ducati's 100% winning record going in Grand Prix so far this year. But let's get the thoughts of the factory team boss Davide Tardozzi with Simon.
Davide, you were many years a World Championship rider. You know how tricky these conditions are sitting here on the grid. I'd love your thoughts on Pecco going into this race.
Yeah, it will be a tough race. Pecco was not so bad and very happy, not so bad on the lap time, and very happy about the setting of the bike this morning. So we'll see, because this morning shows that there are very good and fast riders. So I think that to be on the top 5 is the target, while I think that some Ducatis will be on the podium.
Okay. Good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks to Simon, thanks to Davide Tardozzi. As you mentioned, a bit of history up for grabs here, a bit of a milestone. He's broken a few over the last 18 months or so, hasn't he, Pecco Bagnaia? Not only is he trying to be the first Ducati rider to win the opening 2 Grand Prix in history, he'll be the first Italian to win the first 2 races, the first 2 main races, since his manager and mentor Valentino Rossi did it way back in 2001 at Suzuka and in Velcome in South Africa.
Although I think from Pecco Bagnaia's point of view today, damage limitation perhaps might be the job. What will be the target for Prima Pramac Racing? Joan Zarco goes from the back of the second row. Jorge Martin from the middle of the third row. Let's hear from their team manager Gino Borsoi with Simon.
Gino, we know how good the machine is. We know how fast Jorge Martin is, but Johann Zarco in these conditions, he's proved time and time again he's fantastic at feeling them quickly and getting going. What do you feel about your riders?
Yeah, you're right. From what I know and what I saw in the past, Zarco during this condition is normally quite good. I can say good. He have a speed under the rain. He have a good control under the rain. But well, you never know. You never know till the last corner, of course. Tricky condition, difficult for all us. And well, Martin normally used to have a not really good feeling with the rain condition, but this is another season. Everything can change. So let's see what's going on. But I'm quite confident also in Martin under the rain condition.
Okay, best of luck.
Thank you.
Thanks, Simon. Thanks to Gino Borsoi. Well, we just heard from Davide Tardozzi, didn't we? Sounding quietly confident with some good reason, having 7 strong bikes out there. Unfortunately, Enea Bastianini missing this weekend. It's the 42nd successive race that a motorcycle that's rolled off the production line in Borgo Panigale has started on the front row of the grid. In fact, here today, of course, they've locked out the front row with this man heading the grid, Alex Marquez, first pole position in MotoGP. The last time Alex started a Grand Prix race from pole was in Moto2, the Malaysian Grand Prix at Sepang in 2019, which turned out to be a very good day indeed, because he was crowned the Moto2 World Champion that year on that very day.
Until this weekend in the MotoGP class, he'd not actually qualified in the top 6 at any stage in MotoGP. So Alex Marquez, despite a bit of a truncated and disrupted qualifying one, was able to get his way through and take pole position. He will be expected to go well in those wet conditions. He's got form in these kind of conditions.
Well, it was an unforgettable sprint, wasn't it, yesterday for the Red Bull KTM factory racing team, with Brad Binder charging through from 15th to take an unforgettable victory. What are the odds on him making it a brilliant Binder double? Well, let's find out from inside the camp, because Simon is with their team boss Francesco Guidotti.
Yeah, Francesco, yesterday, stunning. I would have only expected to see, from 15th to 1st in these sort of conditions, but Brad did it in the dry. I want to know your thoughts on both riders, because I know also Jack is very good usually in damp conditions.
Yeah, I mean, now it's fully wet, and we saw this morning there was a lot of rider fast and constant on a good lap. Jack was one of those, and but starting from the back in the wet condition is a little bit more tricky than usual. So what Brad did yesterday, I don't think we can do it again on the wet. And everybody knows that someone could come from the back, so for sure they will be more close to the curb. But yeah, never say never. 25 laps, everything can happen. As I said, Jack showed a good pace this morning. Was pretty similar the condition. Yeah, 25 laps. We have to manage also tires and everything. Finger crossed.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks to Francesco Guidotti. Thanks to Simon posing the questions down there. Well, they don't sound overly confident about Brad Binder's prospects, but as they say never. The late great Nicky Hayden, his famous line, wasn't it, was, well, that's why we line up on Sunday, because nobody knows what's going to happen. Is Luca Marini less than an hour away, or maybe just over an hour away from his first ever Grand Prix success? A great confidence boost yesterday, taking the final place on the sprint podium.
Maverick Vinales, always super calm, always super happy when you hear from him in a Grand Prix weekend. Was so confident in the performance of that Aprilia in dry conditions. What can he salvage out of this race in the wet conditions? Fabio Quartararo walking back to his Monster Energy Yamaha, 10th on the grid for him. Of course, he started last weekend's main race on the Sunday from 10th on the grid after being promoted up one from the grid. Although Fabio Quartararo, so far in the 3 starts he's had this season, he's gone backwards on the first lap on all 3 occasions. He can solely afford to do that today.
So the dignitaries and event organisers are getting ready for the pre-race grid ceremony, which is now a traditional part of the MotoGP race build-up. Alex Rins seemed a little bit frustrated with life yesterday, only 15th in the sprint. struggling to stop that Honda. Honda are really going through the mill, aren't they, early on in this 2023 World Championship. No representation from Repsol Honda on the grid here today. Not the way that they were hoping to start the new season. What can Mir do then? Sorry, Alex Rins, what can he do? And Taka Nakagami started the weekend pretty well, didn't he, Nakagami, on Friday, but looking for his first top 10 since Mugello last year. Far, far too long for a rider of his proven quality.
Yeah, a lot of pressure on Nakagami and Rins here today. Nakagami, as you say, was towards the top of the field in first practice. In many ways, for riders like Nakagami, these kind of conditions will present him with an opportunity that he might not have had in dry conditions.
Yeah, he started and finished the sprint in 11th place, didn't he? That's where, of course, he will now start. And we'll take a pause as we get ready for the national anthem of Argentina.
Libertad, libertad, libertad. Hoy del ruido de rotas cadenas, de trono a la noble igualdad. Ya su trono dignísimo abrieron las provincias unidas del sur y los libres del mundo responden al gran pueblo argentino salud, al gran pueblo argentino salud y los libres del mundo responden al gran pueblo argentino salud y los libres del mundo responden al gran pueblo argentino salud. Sean eternos los laureles que supimos conseguir, que supimos conseguir, coronados de gloria vivamos. Oh, juremos con gloria morir, oh, juremos con gloria morir, oh, juremos con gloria morir.
A stirring rendition of the Argentinian national anthem from Ariel Ardi. What can we expect from Monster Energy Yamaha today? Frankie Morbidelli lines up 4th on the grid. Fabio Quartararo, he starts 10th. Let's get the pre-race thoughts of their team manager, Maya Merigali, with Simon.
Yes. Well, it made so many people happy to see Frankie fighting at the front yesterday. Probably just as many people sad to see Fabio struggle for the second race in a row. We've got completely different conditions today. I have no idea how strong your riders are, your machine is. Please tell us.
Yeah, first of all, we were pleased to see Frankie riding as he rode yesterday, also this morning. The condition, actually, if they are fully wet, they were both happy about the performance of the bike, how the bike behave, and you know, usually for us the critical points are when the track start to get in drier. But if you stay all dry, all wet, and apparently the grip that the track is providing is very good, I think we can do well. We have all the cars to do a good race. It will be for sure a bit more difficult for Fabio starting from the back, but you know, the race on the wet is long. Usually already our races are long, but on the wet is longer, and for me to be patient and ride as smooth as possible, because I think at the end who will be very smart on the throttle, he will finish in front.
Experienced words, Mayo, and best of luck today.
Thank you, mate.
Yeah, thanks to Mario Meregali, thanks to Simon. They'll be hoping that yesterday's sprint brilliance was not a one-off for Frankie Morbidelli. Started and finished the sprint in 4th place. Well, we talked about the unique and special atmosphere that the South American fans created, and there they are, showing exactly why we've been telling you that all weekend long. That actually is quite tame and timid compared to what we've seen in downtown Termas over the weekend. Engines being revved throughout the night. I think every night so far this weekend I've woken up at 2, 3, 4, 5 to a dawn chorus of some motorcycle being thrashed to within an inch of its life.
You're not alone.
No. There might be some new, might be a lot of garages busy around Termas tomorrow, and maybe a few ear tests as well, because it is loud to say the least. But we love it. It's great to be in South America. We love the passion of the fans, and we love being in Termas as well. A little bit of a shame that the weather hasn't helped us out too much today, but it can make the racing unpredictable. Maybe it was going to be in a Aprilia domination in dry conditions. It may well still be in this upcoming 25-lap Grand Prix Michelin in the wet, but certainly a sterner test and a sterner examination for Aleix Espargaro and Maverick Vinales coming your way. They're still belting out the national anthem, I think, aren't they? Those fans there, they're on the feet, they're full of excitement and anticipation, as are we in the commentary box. Maverick Vinales, the race winner here 6 years ago. A great start to his factory Yamaha career when he won the opening 2 Grand Prix of 2017 in Qatar and in Argentina. So he knows what it's like to stand on the top step of the podium in front of these fans who, despite the bad weather, are having a right good time, aren't they?
They are. The rain isn't dampening their spirits, and although the Saturday sprint in dry conditions produced 12 laps of absolutely show-stopping action, the wet conditions, always a great leveler. We were already coming into this race with not really any idea what to expect, given the mixed-up grid that we've got produced by the wet conditions. But the rain that's fallen all day has turned the Argentinian Grand Prix on its head. Who will conquer the conditions over 25 laps of Termas?
So the grid then starts to clear as we get set for the Michelin Grand Prix of Argentina, round 2 of 21 in 2023. The reigning world champion Pecco Bagnaia, the 26-year-old